Howdy, I'm Matt and welcome to Model Monday, and in this week's episode we are going to be discussing the Ritewing Mini Drak. Now I thought this was a fantastic example of a model which is wholly suited to this kind of little mini series. So every Monday we'll be discussing a different model here out of the arsenal, and this is the first one, and we are going to be taking a look at the Ritewing Mini Drak. Now, my goal is to keep this to 5 minutes, so if I talk quite quickly, no apologies, and do keep in the back of your mind, this model, as of all other models which you will see in Model Mondays, have all been bought out of my own money for my own abuses. So, the Mini Drak, one of the most long-awaited models I think around, also one of my best models I have ever flown. It has a very unique feel in the sky. When you've got the goggles down, it's the model which will lock itself in. And if you, I'll put a couple of links in the top right hand corner to previous flight footage, and one thing for you to look out for is that when you come out of a maneuver and then you go and sit her down, you like bring her around and bring her around flat, the model, you feel the back end sit down in the sky. It is such a fantastic feeling. So potentially one of the best FPV aircraft ever created out there. There are contenders to this, and it gets horses for courses depending on what you want to do, but it is right up there, definitely within the top 5 models I have personally ever flown. So let's get into some of the specifications. It's molded EPO foam, so it's super dense and also super tough. The rough wing measurement is about 40 inches or just over 1 meter. My model specifically, we'll get onto a few tips for you in a few moments as well, is about 25 inches or 65 centimeters long. It is quite a heavy model, especially if you consider that I'm running it with, again, potentially one of the best battery packs ever created, the Multi-Star 5200 4S10C packs. That fits right up in the nose underneath there. Now you may or may not notice, in fact, let me just go and zoom in for you. And by the way, as we're chatting, you'll notice that there's some flight footage going on in the background. And that's on board. This is me chasing another Ritewing Mini Drak in the Mini Drak. It's absolutely brilliant. So up on the nose, you will notice that I've got a Runcam HD camera, Runcam 2, and also a Runcam Owl Plus. Unfortunately, you cannot get the Runcam Owl Pluses anymore. They've been discontinued, but they were absolutely brilliant. I absolutely adore mine. You'll also notice that my Mini Drak has the tortoise shell or snake skin finish to it. This is the only one to my knowledge which has been hydro dipped in this style. It was also, this model specifically was the first one in the United Kingdom. Again, I'll put some little cards in the top right hand corner so you can see the original maiden, which was very scary. Now, when I first got this model, I will fully admit that perhaps I should have done my research a little bit better. And one thing with this, it's slightly, again, it has slightly forward swept wings, but the bit which like kind of amplifies that is the depth of the wing here. It makes the wings look a lot more swept forward than they actually are. It's only forward, it's just a tiny little bit, if that. But what gives the forward swept, like the like Romulan, not the Romulan, the bird of prey look, is this deep wing section here. It goes right to the back, and for like silhouette in the sky, it is just absolutely amazing. So like I said, this model was the first one in the UK, and I absolutely adore it. When I first got it, it had, I put in a Eagle Tree Vector in there. So I ran the GPS up on the nose, I had the Vector and the ESC back here, video transmitter, and then an L9R in the side. And that setup is what I pretty much run with for several months, and I really enjoyed it. It was nice having the on-screen display, etc, etc. But then another model arrived and I wanted to take the Vector out and put it into a different model. So I took the Vector out, which was a bit scary for me because, again, it was the first one to be out there. I paid a pretty premium for this model. By the way, the Mini Drak you can pick up for $140 US, give or take a few bucks either side now. And I think it is, yes, it's £100 plus model, but it is if you ever fly one, you'll understand it's a bargain considering the flight experience. Anyway, come back to my point. I took the Vector out and I now fly it bareback, in inverted commas, and it is absolutely fantastic. Again, the reason for me in the beginning was the Vector was to protect my investment because it was quite expensive when it first came out for me, and also I just wanted the on-screen display and to get just that extra bit of peace of mind. And the thing is that now I've become more of a slightly more accomplished pilot. The chances of me losing it are a lot less. Of course, running a lost model alarm in here, etc, etc. So I took the Vector out, and this model does not need a Vector or even a flight stabilizer at all. Maybe if you want to do some long range stuff with it, there's videos on YouTube of people taking these out for wherever distances. But for me, it really is just it's one of those nice models which cruises maybe 50-60 miles an hour in a straight line, and it just banks and it curves, and it's just so beautiful to fly. And also, to give you a heads up, this model will do 100 miles an hour plus in a straight line. Now, one massive tip for you for your Mini Drak is move the motor back. You will notice, and let me just go and zoom in. There we go. You will see this motor is right back. I've turned the motor mount around and the motor is right out the back. That is the secret source motor, so that's the Ritewing. It's 1700 kV with a 7x5 E-prop on the back. I've got the motor right back out into free air, because when I first had it, I had the motor back here and the prop noise was ridiculous on it. I pretty much halved the prop noise by moving the motor back, as you can see here. And also, ironically, I gained about 6 to 8 miles an hour extra in a straight line just by moving that motor back. Now, for the center of gravity, I know that I run mine slightly nose heavy. I've got 2 pins which are maybe like an inch forward of the main spar underneath. Now, just be aware, mine is one of the original, very original prototypes which first came out, so do check the manual, or do check with Chris Glick, the creator of the Mini Drak. But for me, in my head, oh hang on, there's a mate in there, let me just get our pilot out of the way a second, I do run mine, the actual battery in the nose, so I'll hit this up so you can have a look. You'll see, if I can hold this here, put that on my head, and stand on one foot and do a chant. Right, so in the front, Runcam Hour Plus, Runcam HD 2 camera, the 5200 pack with just about a centimetre's gap is how I run mine. Now, before I used to have an Eagle Tree Vector in there. Now all I've got is a hub OSD board, which gives me flight timer, it gives me the current usage, and the battery pack voltage, which is just the bare minimum of what I need to keep the model in the sky. I do run mine with a Turnigy 100 amp ESC, and that has worked out really, really well. I know Dave with his Ritewing ESC, it was thermaling, we just couldn't get on with it. He replaced his to 100 amp ESC as well, I think as well, or at least to another one, and then all the issues went away. So the motor, the Ritewing motor, absolutely brilliant. The 100 amp ESC, the Turnigy one, absolutely brilliant as well. Never had an issue with this one. I've flown it, I've given it so many hot suppers, repeated flights with like 5200 pack, ram it, I just go out and just cane its nuts off, bring it back, put another pack in it, and then go straight again. And yes, the ESC gets warm, yes, the motor gets warm as well, and the batteries come down burning hot, but absolutely brilliant in the sky. The one little mod which I've made to mine is that you'll notice these battery bays, or these little bays either side. I will put links to these. They're both available on Thingiverse for you to free to download and print on your own 3D printer, or maybe go to a site called 3D Hubs and get these printed for you. That's the mod which I've done to mine. One for to get an air scoop in there, to get some air in there. For the video transmitter, and a little antenna mount over here, which I've finally been broken. It's been on there for months, and I think I've broken it in the bag. And that's the antenna mount over here for the L9 receiver, which is in there. And one other tiny little thing which you can 3D print. And by the way, don't panic, I'll put links to all these things down in the video description for you. And again, just underneath, you will notice, I can point out with there my finger, if you look just there, you'll see some of the elastic bands. Now, I know the wings can be detachable, but to be honest, I've never taken the wings off. Hence, you can see the permanent fixing of some sellotape or some masking tape underneath there. But those little mounts there worked out really, really well. Also, for the servos, a little trick for you is underneath, hold that there, in between the wing joiner here, where I've got the servo, is that I have, there is just a male and female servo connector, so that I can just plug it in, and then if I want to detach the wings, I can take the wing off, pull the plug out, and I'm not having to pull the wiring it all out of the main fuse section itself. So there we go, that is the Ritewing Mini Drak. Absolutely stunning model and very, very much worthy of being in the top FPV models, top 5 FPV models of all time. Once you fly a Mini Drak, you will be I'm genuinely impressed by its flight characteristics. It's just that the model just sits its ass down in the sky. It is absolutely fantastic. The only negative I can, well, the only negative really is laminating these models is a royal pain. The wings are really easy. Laminating the fuse section, especially with this rounded section like the body up here, is quite complicated. Luckily, again, like I said, I paid a premium for mine. And it already came hydro dipped, and it came with the laminate already on there, so that made my life a lot easier. It was not going to be an easy model to laminate. That said, this model has had several nose punts. More than one, several. I think it's probably 6 or 7 really good nose punts in the ground. I did put in some glass fiber rods all the way down the inside of the fuselage. There's also glass fiber rods running along on the rails along the top. I don't know if those bays or those things are in there in the later version. What I can tell you is that I'm very glad that I put those glass fiber rods in there, because it has had a few really hard nose punts. I'm not talking like chopping a tree down, I just mean like failed launches and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to the launch, one thing which you've got to look out for is torque roll on the launch. This, again, if it's your first time out with the Mini Drak, you definitely want to get someone else to launch it for you. My preferred way of launching it is really just grab it by its throat just down here with my right hand, like so. And again, you're going for a very, very flat launch, maybe only like 20 degrees up, if that, half throttle as well. You want to feel plenty of push on the model, but not too much. And you're going for trying to get as much airspeed up underneath the model, just to get the airspeed up underneath her, and she'll go off peachy every single time. I've been personally launching this one myself, just wing launching it, and I can't remember the last time I've had an issue. The issue I have had is that when I've been mucking around with the trim of the model and things like that, and also when I first started, that's also reminded me, and I've probably gone way past the 5 minutes, no apologies, I'm trying to cram as much info in about this really, really good model as quickly as I can. The one thing which you need to be very aware of is that you need full elevons, okay, so in your transmitter, 100% ailerons, okay, maybe elevons, elevator, spit me words out, so full elevator, so 100%, maybe a bit of expo thrown in there. When it comes to your roll axis or your ailerons, you need like half, okay? You need very limited movement for the roll axis, because of the forward swept deep wing design of a model like this, it makes it very roll sensitive. It's the complete reverse to a plank wing, which is a very flat wing, which is very sensitive in the pitch axis. The Mini Drak, full elevator, half ailerons, and crucially, and I'm going to zoom in for this one just to make the point on this, because it is absolutely critical for you and the life expectancy for your model, is that you will notice that the servo connector is right down on the bottom hole as far as I dare on the servo, and I'm also using huge, and I mean huge, control horns, and that's very much on purpose to make sure that we get the granularity back on the stick movements. Otherwise you're having to put like your ailerons down to 40 or even less than that, so do go careful of that one. Mine, because I do run my nose heavy, I do have quite a bit of up trim in it and a bit of right trim to stop it going off to the left when we go to launch it. I think that's right anyway. So that is the Ritewing Mini Drak. Absolutely brilliant model. It's about $140 as a kit. Very simple to build. There is nothing complicated in this one at all. The only thing which I would say is that if you do laminate it, which I would suggest that you do laminate it just to keep the model clean, if anything, is that it is a bit tricky and do a little bit of pre-prior thought when it comes to it. Do make sure you got your CG right as well. Check with Chris Click for the latest CG measurement, or what I'll do, I'll put a link to the Ritewing Nation, the Facebook group, in the video description, and there's like hundreds upon hundreds of pilots which have got these models. They'll be able to help you out as well. And again, my biggest tip really is get that motor right out on the arse end. It is pointing downwards through the model, so there's me looking at it now. It is pointing down through the CG, so it's definitely pointing upwards a bit, but I moved my motor round the opposite way, it halved the noise and it made it go faster, so that is very, very much happy days. And I know somebody's going to ask me about flight time. Flight times are one of those subjective things. I can do half an hour of cruising around with that 5200 battery pack. In fact, somebody in the Facebook group put up, noted that they've done a 45-minute flight with the same battery pack. So if you manage the throttle, you can get very, very decent flight times. To be honest, I have, and you must have already guessed this, I have throttle management issues. So you are talking about 8 minutes of full throttle action. Just absolutely caning its nuts off, and you'll get about 8 minutes out of it. So anywhere between 8 to 30 minutes of flying, obviously depending upon how throttle stick heavy you may be. So there you go, that is Model Monday. I genuinely mean this. This model is in the top 5 RC models ever created. It's up there for specific reasons, and the big reason is just that it's so hard to explain. It's just one of those experiences. If one of your mates has got one of these, ask if you can have a fly, okay, even if it's a quick blip, and then take it into a bag and then bring it round flat, and it just sinks its ass in, and it's just such a beautiful locked in feeling. So it is time for me to go. Thank you very much for joining me for this first episode of Model Mondays. If you've been and enjoyed this series, or part 1, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up underneath this video. If you're new here, my name is Matt, welcome aboard. Don't forget to press the subscribe button, and because U-Balls is very special, they ask you to subscribe twice, so don't forget to press the red subscribe button and then press the bell icon underneath so you get notified when the next episode is out, which might well be part 2, and I wonder what we've got coming up next for Model Monday episode number 2. But for right now, that is the Ritewing Mini Drak, and that model is in the top 5 models of all time for me. If you have any questions or comments about this model, please let me know underneath this video on YouTube, and I'll get back to you in a timely fashion. So with that said, from myself, Matt, cheerios!